Hello everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of Sport Federation TV. It's of course Friday night. We talk about sport in the province, across the districts, the different sport codes that are out there. And of course, as you know, the last year has been tremendously difficult for sport in the province, but there's a breath of fresh air blowing at the moment with sport. Many of the sport codes have been allowed to return to training, and even some codes have been allowed to return to play. Of course, the official sports structures have worked very hard at making sure that these sport codes are in fact all COVID compliant. So all the sport that you see out there that are legitimate sports structures are in fact very strictly regulated. Folks, tonight we're going to be catching up with Western Cape Tennis. We're taking a specific look at some of the professional components within tennis. We'll catch up again with Wynand Simon, the president of Ringball South Africa, and starting us, well, a number of other interviews as well coming up tonight. But to get the ball rolling, we are going to be catching up with the president of Western Cape Kickboxing, Josh Cloete. Josh, nice to have you back on the show, meneer. It hasn't been that long that we haven't seen you, but nice to have you back.
JP, thank you so much. It's always nice to be on Cape Town TV. And yeah, I think like you rightfully said earlier on, it's time to let the sport begin.
Josh, from a athlete perspective, are you how comfortable do you think the athletes are right now? They've had a long time off. A lot of athletes had to do some reconditioning, but at the same time, some of the athletes have been managing to stay fit at home. How are you feeling about the athletes conditioning at this stage?
Look, JP, most of our athletes has been active for a very long time due to kickboxing received permission to resume with training some time back, even within the hardcore lockdown. So our athletes are relatively fit and conditioned for competition. I mean, they are really eager to compete. So I'm comfortable. I'm very comfortable that our athletes will perform well when competition starts.
Josh, let's just talk about that a little bit for a second with regards to kickboxing itself. I mean, you're in addition to the fact that you're the president of Western Cape Kickboxing and you've got years of understanding how to coach kickboxing and high performance kickboxing. What does it mean? I mean, you're also a personal trainer and someone with all sorts of degrees behind your name on sports science. What does it mean for somebody at home that maybe wants to do kickboxing? We know that if they come to a kickboxing gym, they're going to get all sorts of expert coaching advice face to face. But how do you stay fit as a kickboxer at home?
Most kickboxers, especially athletes, have been in the game for some time. So, and if you're an experienced kickboxer, then you don't need that much space to keep fit. So I think that's one of the reasons why our athletes are quite in a good conditioning phase. So what happened now in the last couple of months is, of course, our dojos has opened up, which has just brought in the sparring and the ring work concept. But as at home, you know, it's just normal exercises, stretching, kicking, your normal dynamic stretching and static stretching just to maintain flexibility. So I think if you're a relatively experienced kickboxer, keeping fit at home will definitely not be a big challenge.
Josh, now the other thing that we saw 2 weeks ago, there was a boxing championships for novice boxers held with Western Cape Open Boxing at the vibrant boxing facility in Ottery. And of course, there are kickboxers also who train at the same venue. How much of a crossover do we see with boxing and kickboxing? Are we seeing some boxers do kickboxing and some kickboxers do boxing?
Well, to answer your question, yes, there is some form of cross-polarization. And look, it's just natural for a kickboxer to be able to switch over to boxing because 50% of his work as a kickboxer or training as a kickboxer consists of boxing. So any good kickboxer must be able to box. And I think the boxing is giving kickboxing some form of a leeway in terms of having enough competition. So for now, where kickboxing was a little bit dormant in terms of competition, and the boxing was opened up early on, so some of the kickboxers could, and some of them have competed within the boxing event.
Right. So now the next question that I'm interested in, Josh, is when we look at for example, the event that we saw with the boxing, it was very strictly organized. The referees, the officials, the color coding of the event, you could see that it was very, very regulated. Do we see the same type of regulation within kickboxing where the tournaments are all strict and organized and standardized?
Yes, without a doubt, Luke. Obviously, also we have taken some learning steps from that event that took place at Vibrant Sports. I have currently formulated a document, a COVID event procedure policy document for SA Kickboxing, which we will now implement within the next week. And in order for districts and also clubs and all event organizers interested to organize kickboxing events, which they can follow. So yes, look, I think it is important that administrators and all event organizers follow COVID protocol as per regulations.
We believe that you're up on the West Coast at the moment.
Yes, JP, I'm now busy with a movement where we want to create uniformity between all the kickboxing districts. So in Cape Town, we already completed a first aid course for the coaches in Cape Town. We've done a coaches course last week for the Cape Town kickboxing coaches, and now in the West Coast, we are now here to do administrative course to all the clubs and the chairpersons of the West Coast kickboxing. Again, to put all of them on the same pathway as other districts, and that will also be rolled out throughout of South African kickboxing.
When you talk about administrative courses, what are the kind of things that someone at a club would be looking at when we're talking about administration?
You see, JP, you also come from a martial arts background, and you'd know that martial arts has for many years was like a business, and it was run like a martial arts style, and not necessarily like a sport. So we kind of must make that transition now, where a club does not belong to a person, but the club consists of a committee, and this is how a committee must comprise, and there must be a constitution, and this is how the constitution must read. The constitution must be in line of that of the district. The districts must be in line of the province, and of course the province constitution must be in line with the Western Cape or the Provincial Confederation. So all those elements, and many people in the martial arts fraternity don't necessarily understand the sports concept of that, and that is what we want to just reaffirm and reconfirm with our members within the SA Kickboxing.
Josh, we'll leave it at that, and we'll say that we trust that you will enjoy things up on the West Coast. And as always, we look forward to seeing lots of photos and lots of videos, and can't wait for the next kickboxing tournament.
JP, thank you, and again, thank you for having us. And yes, this year is going to be absolutely a exciting year, and challenging, but I think exciting.
There we go, folks. Josh Cloete, the president of Western Cape Kickboxing. Now, is that not great news? Great news to know that clubs are moving. Well, a lot of clubs have done it, but clubs are getting regulated. So when you go to a club, you can find out more about the club's rules, the regulations, and that club forms part of a sport code in the official sense. And you would know that we've spoken about this before, because apart from the standard sports side of things, you've also got to be able to make sure that that club itself is COVID compliant. So any sport code that is out there, you can walk into the club and you can literally say to the club, have you got a COVID clearance certificate from your recognized sports structure? Very important, folks, that we understand this for the safety of our athletes and the safety of our children. We'll take an ad break. When we come back from the break, we'll carry on talking about sport in the province. Back in a sec.